Throughout this training, or at any time you need support, there are many ways to contact us. You can follow us on all major social media platforms or email us directly via our website, or you can click the Cancel Connect icon shown at the bottom of this slide on our website to book a consultation with one of our experts.
Kanban is a workflow management method for defining, managing, and sharing knowledge about work waiting to be done, work in progress, and work that has been done. The goal of Kanban is to help you visualize your work and the work of the team, to maximize efficiency and to continuously improve the flow, efficiency, and quality of your work.
From Japanese, the word Kanban is translated as billboard or signboard. The concept originated in manufacturing, and at the beginning of the 21st century, with its big focus on efficiency, Kanban left the manufacturing-only idea and was successfully applied to other sectors such as IT, software development, research and development, and many others. It's since become a tool that has been dominated by agile software development teams. Key players in the software industry quickly realized how Kanban could improve how products and services are delivered. The Kanban method as we know it today really emerged in early 2007.
Kanban is now recognized by business units across really all industries. As more and more people hear about Kanban, there often are misinterpretations. In this section, we will explain what exactly is Kanban and how do we build a Kanban system.
Kanban is all about visualizing your work and limiting your work in progress. To represent the work in the workflow, boards and cards are used. Kanban teams can use Kanban software, or they can use a physical board, like a simple whiteboard with sticky notes. Once the visualization is complete, you can see how the work progresses or moves across the board. If the workflow is interrupted or stalled, the team members can quickly identify and block the issues in advance.
The core practice in Kanban is to improve the flow of work and to limit the work in process. At a point when the boards fill up with too much unfinished work, the team no longer starts new work and focuses on completing the unfinished work first. The team members refocus their attention and work together to complete the unfinished tasks.
To visualize your process, you'll need a board with cards and columns. Each column on the board represents a step in your workflow, and each card represents a work item. The first and most important thing for you is understanding what it takes to get an item from input to output.
When you start working on an item or task, you move it from the to-do column to the in progress column. And when it is completed, you obviously move it to the done column. This way you can easily track progress and spot bottlenecks in your process.
This is the purpose of using a Kanban board. By doing so, every team member will have a clear overview of what's happening and who's working on what. It helps to estimate your team's work capacity and use it to its maximum level.
Kanban is still growing and adapting to new ways of working. Some of the ideas connected with Kanban are part of good project management or task management practices. So adding Kanban as part of your daily routine may be confusing. Having said that, Kanban and monitoring the flow of work is effective in areas where the flow of work and bottlenecks have caused struggles before. It can offer a lot of value for teams that focuses on daily work. However, for larger projects and big initiatives, it is not always very practical.
We've successfully applied the principles of Kanban across diverse areas such as creating marketing campaigns, custom product development, the craft brewery process, event planning, inventory management, legal project management, and many others.
Many others.
It can be applied to anything that has a process, whether it's simple or complicated. So without abandoning any of the good things in your current workflow, or your good project management methods or current process that's already working well for you, you can apply Kanban because greater visibility in improving the flow of work is always awesome.
There are 6 core practices of Kanban that are necessary in order to realize the benefits. If Kanban is done poorly, just like many tools or methods, it can actually create waste and make processes worse and create a lot of frustration. So these are important practices to understand and apply. They are, firstly, to visualize the workflow. This is usually the first of the practices that teams adopt. Visualizing the work to be done using index cards or post-its on the wall or on an electronic board for distributed teams is a relatively simple step that can provide some great benefits, especially if the board makes it clear how quickly work is progressing. The board becomes the focus for meetings which walk the board from right to left, dealing with problems rather than following the turn-by-turn three-question format of a scrum.
Second is to limit the work in progress. This is a very important one. Setting work in progress or WIP limits on each process step ensures that problems with the workflow become visible on the board. Bottlenecks and available capacity become obvious, which encourages the team to work together to resolve issues and work more effectively. The third is to manage flow. Seeing information about the work within the process with a deeper understanding of the importance of eliminating waste, such as waiting and delays, leads the team to more actively manage their workflow. They focus less on getting started on something quickly and therefore doing many things at the same time, but taking a long time to get them done, and focus more on finishing them quickly by focusing on only a couple things at once.
Principle number 4 is explicit policies. Policies or procedures can be established within the team to reduce rework and focus effort where it will be most effective. Outside of the team, service level agreements or SLAs can be agreed for different categories of work, for example for prioritization, allowing much greater flexibility in the system. Next is feedback loops. In Kanban, feedback is formalized and implemented, not just within the team or work group, but also between teams and between team members and their coach or manager. This is just one way to create and nurture a culture of learning in an organization.
And lastly, the sixth practice is improvements. Kanban does not require any changes initially. No new processes or roles, no new meetings. All it requires is for the team to visualize its existing workflow on a Kanban board. This means that Kanban tends to encounter less of resistance than other approaches faced from stakeholders in the process. The core practices of Kanban encourage continuous, incremental changes that will result in meaningful improvements.
Get your Kanban on. Now let's look at the practice of visualizing. A common mistake is hiding work from the Kanban board. Tasks appear directly to the done stage without going through the requested and in progress stages. This is a no-no. Even worse, they don't appear at all, and we all just go, yeah, it's done, it's all good, we move on. When this happens, you may receive more work requests without having the capacity to handle them. However, your teammates don't know this because the Kanban board shows that you have availability.
The same thing applies if you have tasks in the in progress column of the board without working on them. This way, the team members think you're busy, so they won't request additional work from you, while you actually have some free work capacity. In order to avoid these misconceptions, it's a great practice to have daily meetings to review and update the board. This is the time when every team member needs to share his accomplishments, current tasks that they're working on, and possible obstacles. It'll keep everyone accountable and the whole team will be on the same track.
Managing the flow is about managing the work or the tasks, but not the people. One of the main goals when implementing a Kanban system is to create a smooth, healthy flow. Instead of micromanaging people and trying to keep them busy all the time, we should focus on managing the work processes and understanding how to get that work faster through that same system. This would mean that our Kanban system is creating value more quickly.
And another common mistake with regard to limiting WIP or work in progress. Here's an example of a digital Kanban board with WIP limits. Limiting WIP is one of the 6 core practices. One of Kanban's primary functions is to ensure a manageable number of active items in progress at any one time. If there are no work in progress limits, we're not doing Kanban correctly. Limiting WIP means that a cart is only pulled into the next step when there's available capacity. Doing this right will quickly highlight problem areas in your flow so you can identify and resolve them.
We're always surprised, although we shouldn't be anymore, by the number of teams that implement Kanban, but don't apply work in progress limits. Recently, we worked with a project manager who was complaining that his team's workflow is overloaded and tasks are moving very slowly to done status. It appeared that their Kanban board is overcrowded at each stage of the workflow. Guess why? They didn't establish WIP limits. One of the main practices that ensure your teammates are focused on their current work and process assignments faster. By ignoring work in progress limits, you will miss good opportunities to spot bottlenecks in your work process. It is actually one of the most important Kanban steps. Keep in mind that applying WIP limits may not work from the very first try, so keep trying, but don't let that discourage you. With practice and monitoring the workflow constantly, you'll be able to adjust WIP limits until you find the optimal configuration for your team.
So where do you start to build a Kanban system?
At the beginning,
we start by setting up the most straightforward Kanban board with 3 basic columns: waiting or requested, in progress, and completed or done. Or you can say to do, doing, and done. When it's constructed, managed, and functioning correctly, it serves as real-time information sharing. It highlights bottlenecks within the system and anything else that might interrupt smooth working practices.
David J. Anderson, a pioneer in the field of lean Kanban for knowledge work, has formulated the Kanban method as an approach to incremental evolutionary process improvement for knowledge work organizations. It is focused on getting things done, and its fundamentals can be broken down into the 6 practices that we've covered and the 4 basic principles. These principles are important to understand, especially if you are implementing a Kanban board for the very first time.
So principle number 1, start with what you do now. Kanban's flexibility allows it to be overlaid on existing workflows, on existing systems and processes without disrupting what's already successfully being done. Naturally, it will highlight issues that need to be addressed and help to evaluate and plan improvements to ensure that changes are not as disruptive as possible. Kanban is pretty versatile, so you can introduce it incrementally without worrying about overcommitting or culture shock, since you don't have to make huge changes right from the start.
Principle 2 is agreeing to pursue incremental evolutionary change. The Kanban methodology is designed to meet minimal resistance. It encourages continuous small incremental and evolutionary changes to the current process. In general, sweeping changes are discouraged because they usually encounter resistance due to fear, uncertainty, or disruption.
Principle number 3, respect the current process, the current roles, and responsibilities. Kanban recognizes that existing processes, roles, and responsibilities and titles have value, and they are for the most part worth preserving. The Kanban method does not prohibit change, but it's also not a magic pill. It's designed to promote and encourage incremental, logical changes through team collaboration without triggering the fear of change.
Which is very common, by the way, so just relax. Principle 4 is encourage acts of leadership at all levels. That is the newest Kanban principle. It reminds us that leadership comes from people's everyday acts on the front line of their teams. Everyone must foster a continuous improvement mindset to reach optimal performance on an individual and a team level. Department and organizational levels are very important. This can't just be a management level of activity.
If you or your organization has never done anything like a Kanban board and is not aware of the need for a structured work process, you're definitely at the beginner level. Most organizations at this stage don't have a systematic approach to organizing the way they work, and it might seem difficult to apply Kanban on a team level. For this reason, we recommend starting by visualizing work on an individual level. The purpose here is pretty simple. Individuals need to realize the benefits of visualizing invisible work and the need for limiting work in progress to become more productive. Ultimately, Your team will be ready to start progressing to the next level when people realize the need to prioritize work from that pile of tasks waiting to be worked on. At this point, it's important to realize that limiting work in progress helps you to avoid multitasking, and it helps you to reduce the time it takes to complete tasks. If each of your team members is already here, you're probably past this phase.
At the next level, team members already have built the habit of using Kanban individually. And after people begin to recognize the benefits of simple workflow visualization, they can move to visualizing work as a team. Each individual's work can be coded by a color or their picture or an avatar. In the beginning, it will be easier to differentiate between work items by using swim lanes. Each swim lane can be dedicated to a certain individual. This way, team members will easily recognize their own tasks, but in the same way, they will easily see what others are doing. At this early level of a Kanban implementation, there isn't consistency in the work process, but you will notice increased team collaboration levels and inceptive shared responsibility culture.
While every team member has their own dedicated swim lane, you need to limit the work that can be in progress for each individual. Taking this into account, you can try to calculate the per person WIP limits by simply observing, for example, the number of tasks that can be finished, for example, in 3 days, and this will be the WIP limit. While it shouldn't be too overly complicated, your Kanban board doesn't need to be too simple either. You want to keep your team interested in the board so that they'll be drawn to it on a daily basis. Your board can help to bring your team together in a way that other techniques will have failed. So you'll want to keep it well organized and up to date regularly so that there's always something new for the team members to apply themselves to. If your board is too simple and it doesn't get updated often, it's possible for your coworkers to lose interest.
Which happens very quickly. So a Kanban board is all about visualizing your work, limiting work in progress, and maximizing efficiency or flow. Work groups focus on reducing the time it takes to take a task from start to finish, or from input to output. They do this by creating and using the Kanban board and continuously improving their flow of work. Here you'll find the 1-point lesson for Kanban, and I dare say it's pretty awesome. So it's time again for you to pause the video to take a quiz on Kanban. And don't worry about those awkward moments when the answer you knew was correct isn't one of your choices. Have fun! It has been our sincere pleasure being with you through this part of the training, and we thank you for your dedication to creating a better workplace and an environment that you can truly enjoy.